Coming up in this week's programme, we have a good long hard look at the various facets of GMO. Alain takes us through a movie called 100% Gluten-Free. We have a look at the book 35 Coconut Flour Recipes. Plus we answer the question, should a low-carb diet always be ketogenic? All that and more in this week's edition of the Low-Carb and Paleo Show. Hello, I'm joined in the studio yet again with my co-host Alain Braux. Alain, how are you today?
Hello, Mark, and hello, everyone. I hope everyone is doing fine today.
So, Alain, what have you been up to this last week or so?
It's nice of you to ask. Now that you mention it, Saturday I was at the March Against Monsanto in Austin, and it was a great event. We didn't have it rain this year, so that was nice. But I was a little disappointed. Although there was quite a few people, the numbers didn't seem to increase from last year, and it makes me wonder, are people paying attention to the GMO issue? Because, I sort of assume that as, God knows I'm putting my 2,000 cents worth of information on GMOs, and yet I'm not seeing the crowds getting bigger. So it makes me wonder,
I think it's probably mostly down to the fact that there are so many people who just don't really know what the issues and the dangers are with GMO.
Right, and the timing was also kind of, for us here in America, the timing was a little off in the sense that it was also part of a long weekend. So it was Memorial Day this weekend in America, and so a lot of people probably took the whole weekend off and went somewhere else. So that might be the reason why not so many people showed up. But that said, we had a great rally, we had good speakers. We had, Mike Adams, which lives in Austin, and he's a big anti-GMO speaker and writes tons of articles on the subject as well. Mm-hmm. We had a cute little girl that could barely manage to speak for 1 minute. She was so shy. She wrote a book on GMOs for kids, mm-hmm. and so she wanted to talk about this a little bit, and then we had speakers talking about the political side of things. We had a farmer, he's very well known in Austin, Bargy Creek Farm, and he's been growing organic for the past 20-something years. He mm-hmm. was actually the first urban farmer in Austin.
Oh, right.
20-something years ago. Now we have about half a dozen urban farms in Austin. And we had some music in between, some good old-fashioned hippie-style songs, But Austin used to be a very hippie town the old days, about 30 years ago, before we got invaded by the Californians. They're all moving from California to Austin because we have similar lifestyle about half the price, So it was a good event. We had a good time, a good rally, and I hope more people show up next year.
But you were saying that this is quite it's not just in Austin, is it? This rally, it's been all over the place.
Yeah, this event is held in 350 cities all over the world.
Oh, right.
All over the world, Australia, Europe. I'm not sure if they have it in China. I know they have it in Japan. Canada, of course, Mexico. Mexico is very big on the anti-GMO movement because they are destroying their corn crops down there.
Now, Alain, I know you were talking about it the other day when we were chatting, but there's a movie that you wanted to tell us about. Was it 100% Gluten-Free Movie or something like that?
Yes, I wanted to mention a movie that, if all goes well, I'll be part of. It's called the 100% Gluten-Free. I like that this young lady, her name is Sonia Luther. She's German, but she's doing all of the studies here in Austin. She's a celiac disease patient, and she's doing her movie both for the American public and the German public. Apparently in Germany, the gluten-free movement hasn't been as expensive as it is in America, so she's taking that to her country as well.
All right.
I'm supporting this movie on Kickstarter, And they don't have a website, so to speak, but they have a Facebook page. And if you go to Facebook, you can do a search on the number 100, the word percent gluten-free, and then it will take you there, and you'll kind of keep track of how the movie is going and who they're interviewing. They keep a good blog of what's going on. So this is what I'd like to recommend this week.
Okay, do you know roughly what it's about?
It's going to be a series of interviews from the point of people that are suffering from celiac and people like me that are actually working and helping celiac patients or people with gluten allergies, and help them with their diet and how to live through it, and live a normal life, basically.
It sounds like it's going to be quite an interesting movie, especially for people who suffer with celiac.
Very educational, not too heavy. Sometimes some of these movies can be a little heavy, but this one is mostly to help people with food allergies, in this particular case, gluten. But you can infer from that other food allergies could be handled in a similar way as well.
Yeah.
Which is sort of what the paleo diet is about.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, the paleo diet does work exceptionally well for people who've got problems with gluten sensitivity or allergies, doesn't it?
Yes, because it takes, as you know, it takes all grains out of it. So even if you're not sure you're allergic to gluten itself, which is part of the wheat and other similar grains, if you're not sure which grain you are allergic to, then going paleo will take care of eliminating all grains. And this way you can carefully reintroduce the grains that you think you're not allergic to, and then take it from there. That's a good way to go about it.
Excellent. Now, in the same vein, I'd like to sort of have a quick look at one of the books that I came across the other day, and that is one by Anita Thomas, and it's called 35 Coconut Flour Recipes, or subtitled The Delicious Gluten-Free Paleo Alternative to Wheat. And this seems to be quite a popular book, both in and around the web. You can find it on Amazon, and it's got quite a few good reviews as well. It's a book that provides 35 exciting and easy to prepare delicious recipes that you can make quite easily at home. The recipes are simple for most meals: breakfast, lunches, dinners, and even desserts. So that makes it quite popular with many people. And quite frankly, if you're looking for some really cool coconut recipes, then you don't really have to look that much further.
I do have some few recipes in my paleo book that are also made with coconut flour.
Okay.
And almond flour.
Yes, I'm a fan of both of those. I often use almond flour in stews. One of the reviews it received by a lady called Angela said, "I've been wanting to cook and bake with more coconut flour. This book has a great variety of recipes, especially the breakfast ones. I'm excited to try the pancakes, waffles, and to make fresh bread."
Sounds good.
Yeah, well, it's something worth looking at.
Yeah, I found coconut flour to be a little more difficult to work with because it's a very dry flour. So you have to adjust the amount of fat and liquids in the recipe. Okay. So don't just substitute regular flour for coconut flour and expect the same results. You need to also adjust a little bit, the baking soda amount as well, increase that.
We'll have to see if we can wangle one of your recipes out of you one of these days.
Oh, I don't know. You'll have to twist my arm, not too hard, but...
Okay, all right.
Just enough.
Just enough. I'll send you a bar of chocolate. How's that?
Okay, that'll work.
Excellent.
I hope it won't be melted by the time it gets here.
No, I'll send it UPS. Now, the other day, Alain and I had the privilege of speaking with Heather Jacobsen. Now, Heather, amongst other things, is very much into going gluten-free, as well as being the power behind the website Stuffed Pepper. During our talk, we chatted about all sorts of things, including why going gluten-free should be really going paleo. We also talked about how having a problem with gluten can affect so many of our bodily systems. And in this little extract, Heather's talking about how a problem with gluten sensitivity can lead on to all sorts of things, such as a problem with your thyroid. Let's go over to Alan and Heather right now.
Did you have issues with your thyroid as well? As a
Yes.
consequence?
Yes, and I've had issues with my thyroid. See, I went gluten-free in 2001, but before that I'd had digestive issues as far back as I can remember. And I had a colonoscopy at 20. Again, the doctor didn't find anything, told my dad it was all in my head. A few years later, I had my appendix out, and a few short weeks after my appendix was out, I got a hyperthyroid condition. And I was always convinced that there must have been a connection, but no doctors saw a connection, but I thought there must be. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty sure it was gluten was the connection. Right. But now, later in life, after going hyperthyroid, I had to take the radioactive iodine treatment, which eventually turned to hypothyroid. So right. I had been able to regulate it with a daily supplement, a daily pill. But, you know, again, probably the gluten caused me, you know, the cross-contamination and the little bits of gluten that I was probably eating, as well as changes in hormones, you know, with my second child. It's probably a perfect storm for setting me up for, you know, further complications.
Right. I have heard of other people with gluten allergy mentioning thyroid issues. Do you think that gluten sensitivity creates a thyroid issue, or the thyroid issue might...
That I can't tell you. There is definitely a connection between thyroid and gluten issues. I think they say something like 14% of people with celiac disease have a thyroid autoimmune condition. There's actually a big thyroid summit, health summit going on right now. Sean Croxton from Underground Wellness is hosting it. And so those are the experts that they would know. I just know that I have a problem with thyroid. I'm pretty sure my mother does and probably has a problem with gluten. So there is a connection. Which came first? It's probably a chicken and egg syndrome. Right. Gluten, you know, and especially if you have intestinal permeability, or also called leaky gut, will be attacking your body in other ways. So it could have been from the gluten. My opinion would say it's probably gluten is the cause of it, but I'm not an expert in that.
So would you suggest that if someone comes and mention I have a thyroid issue, should they look into the gluten connection and go gluten-free to see if it improves?
Well, I mean, I would definitely have them talk to a doctor about that. It depends on what kind of symptoms you're having. Gluten affects people in all different ways. And that's what makes it so tricky to diagnose a gluten sensitivity, especially. It's different from celiac disease. And the way that it affects people, there's 200 disorders and counting that are related to gluten. And so it affects people in different ways. And it can affect your hormones, it can affect your brain, it can affect your skin. Not everybody complains of digestive issues that have a problem with gluten, but certainly a lot of people do complain of digestive issues. But if you are if you have, you know, loss of energy, if you seem to have some of the classic thyroid symptoms, there isn't any reason not to check thyroid, you know, levels when you talk to your doctor.
Right. For our listeners,
you'll be able to hear the full interview with Heather Jacobsen next week on the Low-Carb and Paleo Show. Okay, on to our main story of the week. Now, this is something that is, again, very close to Alain's heart, as you will have noticed from his comments earlier about going to the Monsanto shindig. He's going to tell us how to avoid GMOs when eating out.
Okay, so this is, like you said, this is close to my heart in the sense that having studying GMOs for the past year and a half and writing a book about it, I went very deep into the issues related to genetically engineered food, and the easy answer on how to avoid GMO when going out is to avoid known genetically engineered crops, which are corn, soy, sugar beets. Of course, cotton you will not eat, but cottonseed oil you will most likely encounter. which is a little harder to figure out because typically the cooks don't necessarily know what they're cooking with unless they are very particular. So those are your basic ingredients you're trying to avoid. If you see them on the menu, it's better to ask if they are from